Hello, everyone. Wow. Sorry. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another weekly forecast video. I am your host, B2B Trades, and today we're going to be looking at some Apple, some Tesla, some Palantir, some XOM, and some Ethereum and Bitcoin. When I do these videos, I really want to stress that this is not financial advice. This is strictly for educational purposes only. I kind of just want you guys to see exactly what I'm looking at for the week. So if I do send any trade signals, you guys are able to maneuver really on your own throughout them. And if you guys need any more assistance, you guys can obviously reach out, right? So going into the markets this week, it looks like I'm not going to say primed, but we could be for a little bit of a reversal before we continue bearish into the future. We see that structure has already been broken on Apple. Here throughout this trend line, we see that we've already squeezed the price a little bit lower because I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, we're waiting on that decision from Apple whether or not we're bearish and we're going to take out this demand zone here, or we're going to continue bullish into new all-time highs. And obviously we've made our choice. But the thing is now we kind of have to wait for price to break this level right here at 165.63 to really be bearish and take our trades into our next POIs. So if we do want to continue bearish, I expect some sort of bullish reaction first. I'll show you guys the weekly, as we do have a gap right up here that I think will fill very, very, very soon. I just don't think it'll fill and then turn into a bearish wick, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think we'll come and trade up here and then trade down. We might trade up here for a couple of weeks, really get all the impatient traders / investors out, and then continue short. But we'll see how that plays out. We'll ultimately see how that plays out. Sorry. When I want to predict further price targets, down here, this is really the next order block that I see at about 156. So I'm going to mark that up and label that. So this is our next target for shorts. And if price does come down here, the next target would be at this resistance down here. This is huge resistance. Don't expect this to break right away. But our next target would be here. If that does not hold up, next target's down here. And you guys can see why. This is our 2022 low, yeah. We've played off this level really since 2020. 1, 2, we can consider that 3, 4, 5, really 6 times within that general range. Because if I were to, sort of like you built a house on top of it. That's exactly how it looks like. You just built a house on top of it. This type of support doesn't really get taken out too easily. I think this is our 2020 low. I think that'll get traded into eventually one day, but we'll see how that happens. Nonetheless, Apple, we need a couple of things to happen before we get into the markets again, into shorts, possibly retest that trend, and continue bearish. That's the only way. That is the only way I'm going to continue shorting this particular stock. Where is my invalidation? Still back up here. So do I want to short off the lows? Probably not. Do I want to wait for a pullback to possibly see a left and right shoulder? That's kind of ugly though, but you guys get the point. It'll still retest off this trend, perfectly legal. It'll still fill the gap and will still fall within the general bearish look of our chart. So if that happens, we have a stop where let's give it the benefit of the doubt to fill that gap. On non-leveraged one-to-one play, it's 6.66%. So take that as you will. I like that risk a hell of a lot more than, it's probably going to be like 12. 11.5%, that's almost double. So just keep that in mind of where you'd be wanting to short from. If price does trade from here into new all-time highs, as this would be one ugly, ugly, ugly accumulation, I can still see it. I can still see that happening, as there's still a lot of liquidity that sits up there. But we'll see if that even happens. We will see how that plays out. If that wants to play out, I'll be damned. But it's not something that I'm really holding my breath on. So now that we've discussed Apple, we see that the next target is within that last accumulation. And if that does not play out, our last real support, we can let this breathe and be patient on it. That's all I'll say. Just be patient on Apple. If we continue to short like into next week and we don't have that pullback, I'd say still be patient, because now you're just waiting on longs. If your goal is to come and short this because you genuinely think that we're going to go short, wait it out. There's literally there's no other way. Just wait it out. Next thing that we're going to be looking at is Tesla, as Tesla does have a very similar, well, not similar, but the psychology behind it looks very, very, very similar, and I'll show you why. I might as well just click here. So Tesla's a ugly pattern. Why is that there? Oh, I remember. Tesla gap here. That gap has been filled. This accumulation has been taken out. We were looking at this as the head and shoulders, left shoulder, right shoulder, head. There was your neckline, and that wasn't actually a head and shoulders pattern. That was an ascending channel that we ultimately got swiped out of. So when looking at this, you can look at this as two ways. We created a new low, so price is just still breaking structure and harassing shorts until we ultimately create a new low in comparison to here, as this is where that structure came and created new highs in comparison to there, as this would be officially bearish, and we do still have some gap targets. Or you can look at this as price just created a new low and generated a little bit more liquidity up there to come and take out that trend. But it's, I don't know, it's just I personally, I wouldn't play this as a bull. I would not play that as a bull. We have gap targets up here that I think will fill into the future. No, that's filled, isn't it? All of those are filled up there. There's not really much targets to the upside. There's more possibility of us shorting to the downside than to the upside. So I would still be bearish, to be honest. We have absolutely no sign of us flipping the switch and becoming bullish. Next earnings is all the way in April. So I think we'll probably turn bullish right before then. I think we still have a little bit of room to trade lower. But what I wanted to show you, the comparison to Apple, is this. That's a nasty bullish engulfing, or bearish engulfing. Notice how on Tesla we shorted into that order block and we retested it. Apple, we traded into that order block, and we'll see if we come and trade bullish and retest that trend like we did on Tesla here. Obviously, we didn't hit it completely, but we still traded within that same general area. So when I say retest the trend, it doesn't always have to hit it or trade back into it. We just have to retest that area in which we ultimately shorted from. So if this does happen, we want to see if price will come and trade into that bullish order block before trading lower and filling that gap that we created the other day. And if that happens, our next target would be where? Our next target would be right down here at that order block. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to go short and you just understand where all of that liquidity lies, and it's a ton of it, there's still liquidity sitting within here because that hasn't really been taken out yet. I think there's like an 85% chance this continues short, to be honest. I'm being dead serious. That is one nasty pattern where you can consider that a left shoulder. You can consider this a right shoulder. And you can consider all of that ahead. If you guys look at the market as not just one big structure and then you're taking out internal liquidity. That's just the way I look at it. So if this does happen, let's see if this plays off of a 618 level anywhere. Probably the 0618, whatever it is. No, actually. What if I draw this out from our 2020 lows? Wow, look at that. 236, 236. We can't seem to break that, can we? Yeah, fuck that. Our next target would probably be down here. This breaks, doesn't it? We don't hold up. Yeah, I'm the way, sorry, I should have explained this. The way I'm looking at this is, where are we going to get that instant reversal from if we do short? Because if our goal is to come in short this to within there after that retest of this candle if we get it. We kind of have to find a TP and where we're going to short this to, because from current price, let's see, it's probably like 18%. Fucking hell, that's a lot. 25% to invalidate this. Ah, that's a lot. What is it from up there? 15. It's not much of a difference, is it? 7%, I'll take it. I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. It was only 6% on Apple anyway. Fuck, that's a lot. Yeah, looking at this, there's really just one way. You take that risk or you don't. That's all I'll say. Take that risk or don't. There's huge profit to be made if you do, though, and I'll show you in a second. There's not really much more I can say on Tesla. Like, this is just one of those things where all the bullish signs have already been taken out. They've already been taken out, right? We failed to create new highs off of that accumulation here. We already broke the structure, and all we're waiting for now is a retest of last week's candle before continuing to go short, if that's what the cards have for us. But like I was saying, I'm gonna mark this up in a short setup real quick. That's right there. Let's say we hit it from here. Does the risk outweigh the reward? We are not going to take that into new lows. We're going to take that as like a 1 to 2. Yeah, a 1 to 2. What percent is this? 44%. I would take that. Me personally, I would take that. I think that's perfectly legal. Perfectly legal. I already showed you guys, if this is not some sort of bearish pattern, we're super bullish because this is one big accumulation. But if not, yeah, this looks like we're going into the depths of hell, and new lows are about to be created. Still some downside targets, like I said. If you guys were to look for like a TP1, this gap still hasn't filled completely. So keep that in mind. All of this choppy price action, which tells me if price does break that structure that I showed you guys on the weekly, we're simply just going to swipe down into here, and then we'll see some sort of reaction after that. So yeah, Tesla, wait this out as well. I showed you guys my targets. Funny enough, that wait, did I line that up perfectly, or did I do that on purpose? Close enough. Yeah, that this order block right here comes very close to that gap fill, like 1 to 1. So wait for that pullback into there. If we get it, we get it. Cut down that risk. If not, fuck, so be it. There's other setups, but that's exactly what I'd be looking at there. Where would a TP1 be on this? Probably that gap fill. Let's go 1 to 1 and 1 to 2. That's our setup right there. At least for me personally. I'm looking at that 1 to 1 to 1 to 2. At least you create a new low in comparison to there. You fill that gap if it does hit. And then you are literally just on the trajectory to continue downwards. That's the goal for Tesla. Palantir. This is a super interesting one, and I'll show you guys why. This is a new IPO back in 2021, right? We IPO'd, we went long. I don't care about this, just because we only went long to create whatever our lows were. So we IPO'd into an 85% sell-off. Very good for us. This tells me if this is our true accumulation, this is our cycle low, quote unquote, we will never retest this in the near future. We are just going to continue long into that 80, 90, 100, 200, $300 range before we ever consider coming back down here. And I'll explain why in a second. We see this nasty accumulation off these lows right here, off these algorithmic lows. There's your left shoulder, there's your right shoulder, and there's your head. I don't give a shit about this. Wicks are just a distraction. And we still see liquidity build up everywhere. Like, for example, notice how that trend still hasn't been taken out. Even though the internal structure continues to create new highs, the trend is still not taken out. And if you want price to continue bullish, I think a pullback is almost imminent, and I'll explain why in a second. On the weekly time frame, we're going to see one thing. We're going to see that we're approaching a resistance zone. a zone where we previously shorted from. You see a left shoulder here. You see a head where that was that quick liquidity sweep. I actually remember trading this, to be honest. And then we see our right shoulder where we took out all of that internal liquidity to the downside. We did that to create this pattern here and short into new lows just so we can push price, I guess, to a low enough point that has returns that would make sense for some of these elites. What is price up out of curiosity? Where's 500% at? This one is difficult. Fuck, I do not want price to do that. Okay, so what that's telling me is one of two things. Either the pullback that we're waiting for comes off of something like this, and we can see that all we're doing is whatever happens on the left side will happen on the right. That's all I'm basing this on, because there's what can you wait for? This gap doesn't have to fill completely. We can easily just come and retest it, wait long enough that this EMA extends a little bit and we retest part of that gap. But this is, I think, like 10 to 15% lower. Oh God, no, 23% lower. So this would cut your gains down by a quarter of whatever they are into the future if you don't wait for that. So yeah, me personally, I'd wait no matter what happens on this. I'd wait for that pullback. I for sure would wait for that pullback. As like I said, we're approaching a resistance point where price previously shorted from. We don't obviously have to respect it completely, but my point still stands. We don't want to be long from here. If you guys want to own this particular stock and you guys think it's a good investment, you guys think the times with the war and everything are going to push this price higher, then hey, so be it. But in my personal humble opinion, I would wait it out just a tad bit. Be one of those patient investors, not the one that FOMOs into everything just because you've seen a 16%, 10% increase on the day. So Palantir, yeah, we want to wait for that internal structure to trade a little bit lower before taking out these highs here. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, then just, like I said, wait it out. Are we in logarithmic scale or are we in regular? No, we are in regular. There's not really much I can base that on anymore now. Yeah, just a waiting game. Any Fibonacci retracements? Would you look at that? Hit the 618 fucking perfectly. Wow, hit that fucking 618 perfectly. Couldn't have asked for a better setup than that. Where's our 1 point? Yeah, I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening. So you guys see the potential for this just based on Fibonacci levels alone. Oh my God, what is that, 1300? No, 25. I like that. I absolutely like that. This right here is a good setup to me. If this does happen, it's a good setup. I think that'll hit eventually, next 2-3 years. So keep this in mind on Palantir. No matter how slow, no matter how choppy this price action gets, understand liquidity still has yet to be taken out. And with everybody so bullish on this particular stock, I don't see a reason why we can't accomplish that. I just don't see a reason why. This internal liquidity has to get taken out eventually to extend it to that external liquidity that we will create, but wait this out. What else is on here? XOM. XOM. Let's see how we're doing on XOM. Okay, this is another weird one, as I do think this will eventually trade bearish, and I'll explain why. We see on the daily time frame that we are trading out of this, or rallying, I should say, out of this accumulation. We see our left shoulder. I'll actually mark that up for you guys. See the left shoulder here. We see that potential right shoulder there. And our neck, or our head, I should say. There's our neckline. We're now rallying out of it. But on the weekly time frame, all we see is bullish candle, large wick, bullish candle, large wick, bullish candle, wick, bullish candle, wick, bullish candle, wick. If we want to catch along, all I will say is if we don't short from here, because this is one of those patterns where even though it appears to be accumulative, not convincing whatsoever. And I'll explain why. We could easily come and trade to somewhere within here, maybe even right up there, and just continue short and take out these lows here. So what I want to stress on this on XOM is if you guys want to trade this and if you guys want to find a setup on it, find where your price target is first for your bullish sentiment before ever taking a trade on here. And if your bullish price target is to come and fill that gap, then hey, so be it. But this is not one of those ones where I would take that gamble on like I would on Tesla or Apple per se, just because it's not certain. It's not certain on longs or shorts. We're still within this sort of weird consolidation phase that we're now only just breaking out of. So on that weekly, at least for this particular week, I will obviously continue into the future on what I want to happen on this stock. But on the weekly time frame, we want that gap to fill. We want that gap to fill. And if you guys are bullish going into next week, that gap, if it fills, and notice how we don't have a wick on the upside, we sort of just stopped at wherever the momentum halted at. We want to wait to see if this happens on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday per se, and then throughout the rest of the week we continue bullish. So if you do happen to catch that bearish to bullish wick, that's what you'd be eyeing out on this. What's your stop on here out of curiosity? Your stop has to be below that right shoulder. So if this gap does fill completely, which I think it will, what's our, yeah, I think it will. What's our risk to reward to go long on here? Or our percentage risk? 5%. It seems like all of these are becoming 5%, 5%, 5%. Yeah, I'm not complaining. I would still take that. But obviously, if price starts breaking down this this structure here, you don't want to be in the trade. But we're looking for that pullback into here, into that gap, potentially on a weekly wick to continue bullish. And if that is the case, going into that price target that I marked up here, what would our risk to reward be? Where's my bullish setup? Let's say from there to down here, this has to be like a 1 to 2.5, 1 to no, not 1 to 3. This is not even a 1 to 2. Wow. Like, that's exactly why I didn't want to take this. As we would have to break. Fuck. I don't know if it does it. Notice how this is your head and shoulders pattern. Here. There was your neckline that got taken out. If price wants to trade above here, we might be bullish for the longer term, as we're taking out a pattern that made us go short in the first place. And if that does happen, I think it's a good sign. But if it doesn't, that weekly, like I was saying, is going to remain a hell to trade for anybody still wanting to go bullish, just because we see that head and shoulders forming. This will literally make most traders want to continue to long this just because they see this pattern, instead of switching their bias and their analysis to continue into whatever the trend at the current time is showing. So just be careful on this is what I'll say. Be very, very, very careful trading this. I'm going to send updates throughout the week, but this is not something that I would touch personally. Like, at all. Ethan BTC. The one thing that I want to say about this is I want both to prove to me that they're still bullish. And I don't mean that as something that did not just hit all-time highs on Bitcoin. I want this to prove to me that even at these highs, that we failed to get taken out over the last couple of tries back in 2022, I think it was. There's here, there's there. I'll explain to you what I'm talking about. It's this big curve. When I say highs, obviously price gets taken out from the highs, but this curve is still intact. And whether or not we want to come and trade into that is up to the actual asset itself, right? But I want us to prove that we're not going to just make a pullback down here and then continue to go long, because this setup is still legal. This setup is still legal. We don't create new lows. I want us to continue bullish and create new highs on new highs and new highs, and creating new liquidity to take traders out of the market and push the price even higher. That's what I want to see. And if that fails to happen, I'm going to be bearish for the short term. And if not, if it does happen, we are literally just going to wait this out and see how that structure forms, as we are currently down 1.2% on Bitcoin on the day. Anything can happen. Really, anything can happen. So if this does want to continue bullish, most people do see a pullback as imminent, but anything can happen really. I don't really want to add too much technical analysis to this as we're already in all-time highs. We just gotta sit on our hands. If you're bullish, you're bullish. Continue bullish, continue to dollar cost average, and do your thing. I just personally would not be buying at the highs here. Ethereum, if we want to continue bullish, we already had that pullback that I spoke about the other week where we had that 16% as Bitcoin was 21%, I think it was. Yeah. Within this zone here. And if we are bullish, the one thing that I would say is be careful from that little nasty head and shoulders. But still room on Ethereum to want to come and trade into new highs. What percentage left are we? I'm going to say like 30 to 40 maybe. What are we on regular scale, not logarithmic? I guess 56% from current price. Wow. 27 only. So you guys could take that trade if you want. Personally, I think Solana is a lot better if it does play out. But nonetheless, I just want price to prove to me that we are still bullish. I want to see new all-time highs on Ethereum. I want to see more all-time highs on Bitcoin and just see how that plays out. If it doesn't play out, then so be it. But like I said, other opportunities within the market, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk if it does. Anyway, guys, hopefully you guys found some value in this video. Hopefully you guys understand my POV going into next week. Please, please, please understand for the final time, this is not financial advice. It's strictly for educational purposes only. And yeah, let's continue winning. Anyway, take care, guys, and let's have an amazing week.